Hi, welcome back to Taji's World of Books and welcome to a book recommendation video. Hey you guys, welcome back. So for the beginning of the new year, I thought I would start off with an angsty romance recommendation video. So I have 4 books that I want to recommend as angsty romances, and then the final bonus one is a kind of disturbing book. I'm not going to say it's just disturbing, and we're going to talk about it in a minute, but I didn't know where else to put it, so I'm just going to put it in this video whether it goes or not. So let's just go into it and see how it goes. The first book that I want to recommend is Sam Mariano, and this is The Boy on the Bridge, and this is about Hunter and Riley. And if you've read other books by Sam Mariano, namely Untouchable with Carter Mahoney and Zoe, it's a very similar kind of angsty, bully, high school romance read. Very similar. And it actually crosses over at the end of this book to the Untouchable world. And we'll talk about that in a minute. So this story is about Hunter and Riley have known each other since they were very, very little, and they have gone to school together. But it starts off with Hunter, being on a bridge. That's kind of the property behind his house. He's sitting on a bridge, and that bridge is on the way, or Riley uses that as a shortcut to get home to her house. And so she then gets to know Hunter as a result. And Hunter, unbeknownst to all of his friends, he's a jock, he's the most popular, he's on the football team, like classic bully high school romance stuff. And he's the most popular kid in school, and Riley is a nerd, and she's a huge fan of like the Hunger Games, and she's a huge voracious reader. She's very intelligent. She lives at home with her single mom, and it's just the two of them. And Hunter, unbeknownst to everyone else, obviously has a very traumatized home life. He lives with his mother, who is a ex-model, and his stepfather, whom is quite abusive. And the story really unfolds from there. And it really is about her pushing him away, him trying to draw her in. They start off really, really close and things are really, really going well, but she reveals something that she promised to keep secret, and of course that turns the tides, and he now hates her and they're enemies. And so it becomes a hate to love type situation. Now, I think and so the book is very, very angsty, but I feel like it has unnecessary angst. Riley in this situation is raised by her mother, and her mother got pregnant as a teenager, and as a result of her teenage pregnancy has really sort of instilled in Riley, be careful, don't trust men, don't put yourself in situations that are going to get you in trouble, etc., etc. And so as a result, she is very cautious of Hunter, and I feel like it's unnecessarily angsty, and she is Hunter is manipulative for sure, and he is a bully, and he uses whatever he can. Once he sets his sight on something, he is going to get it at any cost, and he sets his sight on Riley, and that's what he goes after. But let me say, I think when I finished the book, I was like, how do I feel about this? There's something that happened towards the end of this book where we were like 90% into this book, and he's still pulling some antics that I just was like, you didn't even ask me if this is okay. I don't even know that this would be, there's no way for you to make up for what you've just done. You've put her in a situation where you didn't even consent. She didn't even consent to whether or not she wanted to do this. So I don't know, it didn't pull off this quite the same way that Carter Mahoney did. Carter Mahoney, by the end of it, he's like your favorite anti-hero. He's just you don't want to bring him home to mom, but you absolutely love him and adore him. And I just didn't feel like that about Hunter. Now, Hunter is not a bad guy. Hunter has, a bad situation and is in a bad situation because of his mother and because of the situation with his father. But he does things that, I don't know, just aren't cool. And Riley also doesn't forgive him for something that she said, if you cross this line, I'm never gonna forgive you for. So I don't know, it leaves you sort of am I liking this? Am I on board with him? And ultimately I am on board, but there were just a couple things that I was just I'm not sure. So it definitely, she did her job in terms of making me feel a little bit unsettled, if you will. And as I said, the book crosses over at the very end. It crosses over to the untouchable world, and apparently she in Carter Mahoney's world. So apparently there is a character that we meet at the end of Untouchable at a restaurant in New York, and his name is Caleb Grant. And Caleb is like the guy who can get you anything. He is like the end-all be-all of New York. Like, if you want to do anything in New York, you need to be friends with Caleb Grant. So Caleb Grant makes an appearance in this book as well, and he crosses paths, and his job is to get in on people's secrets, because secrets are power. Because once you have power over people, you have secrets, you can lord over them, then they're in your corner, and that's how it's currency, basically. Okay, so apparently Caleb is going to have his own book called Unbeatable. So that in like the untouchable world. So that like definitely seems like some fun stuff. So like I said, Zoe is mentioned in here from Untouchable as well. So if you haven't read Untouchable, you should probably go back and read that, because Zoe and Riley become friends. And the way that this ultimately ended, it ended well. So I did knock it down a point. I would have given it 5, but I knocked it down to a 4 because, like I said, it was unnecessarily long. It did not, this book is like 600 and something pages, 620 pages. It doesn't need to be 600. It could have been half of this and I would have gotten the same story. So it just felt like it was like ongoing with their day-to-day life. It was a little bit unnecessarily angsty. They both were sort of, you know, playing tit for tat. He was angry at her, so he was going to get back at her, and then she was like, I'm not going to forgive you, regardless of the fact that he sent flowers every day. And he did, like, there's a lot of groveling in this book. And I'm not a huge fan of grovel. Like, it's like grovel a little. I am all about grovel a little bit, but then once either I'm going to make a decision to get past it and move on, or I'm not, and like the rest of it is like unnecessary to me. So that's what I think about that. So I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars. I'm going to save this wacko book for the end. We'll talk about that in a minute. Okay. So Poison, this is a highly emotional and angsty story, and there are two characters here. It's Lucas and Anna. Lucas and Anna it's a second chance romance. They had a previous relationship, and some things went down in this relationship that ended abruptly, promptly, and really, really poorly. And so they come back into each other's lives really serendipitously, and because Anna is trying to engage, and she's engaged to be married, and she's with this guy who is just like not doing it, and she just is like humdrum, same old, same old, same old, and she's just bored. She doesn't want to do it anymore, so she's just like over it. So she's like, you know what, I'm out. I can't do this. And it was very abruptly, and so he was like, what? Like, what? Where are you going? She's just like, I can't do it anymore. And so she has a random hookup, and it doesn't go well, and the only person that can make her body hum and sing is Lucas, the guy that she was with previously. So she decides that she's going to reach back out to Lucas, and they're just going to do a one and done, a one-off type situation. She wants to get her needs fulfilled, and it never works out that way, and the story sort of unfolds from there. And this is so emotional. There's lies, there's deceit. You know, what do you do when everybody, the world is absolutely against you? Nobody wants you to be together. Nobody thinks that this is going to be right. They saw how this destroyed you. They just know where this is going to end. And so they are like, not going to happen. So angsty, so emotional, really good story. Amazing, amazing, amazing. I give it a 5 out of 5 star. Really, really great. Poison. Okay, Bait, another Jade West. This is the story that is very similar to the Lila Pace, asking for it, begging for it, same type of trope. The main character is Phoenix, and the female heroine's name is Abigail. So it's Phoenix and Abigail was in, and the story is told in a split timeline, 14 years ago to current. So they go back and forth so you can understand how they got to be where they are currently. And Abigail, there's a lot of trauma, there's a lot of trigger warnings, there's a lot of situations that you need to check out and make sure that you're aware of going into this. This was so emotional. It was a difficult ride because they both have the same kink, and that kink is wanting to be assaulted and wanting to assault and having the chase and going after someone to, like, chasing your monster in the dark, just like asking for it and begging for it. So it's a specific type of kink. And so she goes on a website and she creates a profile, and she basically says, I'm looking for my monster in the dark. Will you be my monster? And she has all these guys that respond and all these guys that, like, you know, reach out, and they're all like crazy. And she's like, no, she goes, I'm not crazy. I know what I'm looking for. I want to be pursued. I want you to chase me. I want you to catch me, and I want you to ravage me and destroy me. And so when he responds like not in the normal way that all the other dudes respond. He responds with, what happened to you? Like, how did this become a thing for you? And so they decide that this is going to be a one-off situation, and it sort of ensues from there. There's a lot of secrecy. There's a lot of history. There are other characters that come into play. There was a trauma that happened for both of them 14 years ago. So you're trying to, they don't know each other. It's an anonymous situation. He like tells her, go here, wear this, be in this dark alley, do this, do that, like set it up so she is not going to know in any way, shape, or form who he is and what his deal is and what he looks like. She doesn't know anything. And so it's a really scary situation, but it's also serving to heal some old wounds. So again, this is so angsty and so emotional. I give this a 5 out of 5 stars. It's really, really good, but it's like, whew, it's a gut punch for sure. So check that out. The next Jade West that I want to talk about is called Call Me Daddy. And this is, whew, this is a little bit outside my comfort zone. This was a daddy, little girl kink type situation. And it is about a girl who's named Lane. And Lane is out with her best friend, who is never her best friend. She is a train wreck. She goes out with her friend. Her friend, basically, it was like for a party or whatever. She comes up there at the pub and she's like, I'm going with this guy. Like, get yourself home. And she basically leaves Lane on her own. And Lane is like 18 years old. And she is very innocent, and she is like, you know, another part of the city that she's not familiar with, and she basically gets left alone, and this guy accosts her, and he tries to assault her. And to make a long story short, Nick rolls up, and he like is like, what's going on here? You get in the car. He doesn't know her. He's like, I'm gonna get you out of here, and you, dude, stay away from her. And basically the situation ensues from there. Lane is a throwaway. Her mother doesn't care about her. Her mother doesn't support her. She really is on her own. And it really is like I said, a daddy little girl kink situation that they work out, that sort of evolves as a result of trauma. And so it is worked through in this story, and ultimately to the point of where the relationship ends. This I gave a 4 out of 5 stars. If this is your thing and you like it, it's a fun read. It's a fun read. It was very angsty for sure. There was a lot to it, and it's short and sweet to the point. So gave that a 4 out of 5 stars. Okay, the last book that I want to talk about, and I have mentioned before that I don't have triggers and I can read pretty much anything and it doesn't disturb me. This book disturbed me, and this is Tampa by Alissa Nutting. And this book, what's her name? If you read The Teacher Who Mary Jo Letourneau, the teacher who had sex with her 14-year-old student, that's this. So this is a female teacher who is a pedophile, and she has a proclivity for adolescent, like right 14, like right there, like 12, 13, 14, something like that, year-old boys. And I first of all, I can't even believe that this book was written. I don't even know how this was recommended to me. I don't know where it came from, but I was so uncomfortable reading about this. It was very uncomfortable. It is a story that needs to be told because it's all about her mindset and like what she was doing and like how she came to be who she was and what that was all about. But it's also like there wasn't a lot of, it also talks about the double standard that exists between how women are treated versus a male pedophile. And I think the only way that you could write a book about this is if a woman is the pedophile doing this, right, to young boys. Because they even talk about like a young boy who doesn't want to say that like they slept with like a 20-something-year-old really gorgeous woman at 14, 15 years old. Like that's like a rite of passage, whereas the reverse would be the case if it were a male pedophile with young girls. We would, as a society, view that very differently. And so therefore the outcome of this book in terms of what happens as a result is varied because of she is a female. But it is so disturbing. And this is a breakout novel, I believe, for this author. And there's a part of me that is like, why would you even write this? And there was a part of me in the beginning, I was like, especially in like the first 20 pages, I was like, what am I reading? This is so uncomfortable. And then as I read it, I'm like, I have to finish this because I need to know that justice is going to be served. I need to know that this person, although a fictional character, is going to get what she deserves as a result, because she destroyed these boys' lives. And I felt unsettled and unsatisfied with the way that the outcome occurred. I feel like there was no penalty, or very little, and it was really frustrating. And really frustrating for her lack of remorse for what she had done to these boys. Particularly, there was one boy who was just like, woohoo, I got to sleep with this really hot teacher. And the other boy was just, who experienced the most of the abuse, was really destroyed over this, quite honestly. And it was disheartening and upsetting and really frustrating. So this is not for the faint of heart. It is uncomfortable. It is not an easy read. I don't even want this book in my house. Like, once I finish, now that I have finished this, I will pass this along. But I don't even want to pass it along because I don't want anybody to stumble upon this and then think, oh, this is going to be a fun like little read, and then they start reading this and then they're like, what the heck? So I don't know what I'm going to do with this. I got to think on it and see what's going to happen. I don't know. Like, it just was very unsettling, very unsettling. So angsty for me, like, it created a lot of angst, and it created a lot of frustration, and it created a lot of discomfort, and yeah, just a lot of yucky, icky feelings. And I don't usually walk away from books feeling icky or yucky, but I guess that is my line. Like, kids, like, it just, no, it didn't work. Didn't work for me. So I gave this a 2 out of 5 star, like, because I just was, no, it didn't work for me. So that's that. Sorry to end on that kind of a note, but I try to like make sure that you guys hear and get what I'm getting, and so you know like what's out there. And like the same thing, like I don't want to just donate that to my local library, so I don't even know what I'm going to do with that. I have to think long and hard about how I'm going to get that out of my house, but I don't want that energy around me. So anyway, you guys, that is all that I have for Angsty Reads, whether it's angsty on page or whether it creates a great amount of angst within you. And so that's all that I have for today. Please like and subscribe. It really helps me if you hit the like button because it helps the YouTube algorithm. You know, I upload new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and I'm so happy to be doing this, and I look forward, you guys, to seeing you in my next video. Bye!